Hey, Ricky. Can't hear you.
Fix that. All right. I'm going to wish there was a way to send the invite to as many people as possible. Okay. Well, this is kind of all right. We're gonna give it like 2 more minutes because I screwed up. We're doing this thing where we post the event, but then you have to register through another site, and I'm not sure that's the experience that people are getting. And we were supposed to have thousands of people here,
Of course.
thousands.
Yeah.
But
We broke the servers. We had to get a new one.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna wait, I don't know, a minute or two. I'm gonna get a little monster inside me, and then we'll we'll see where it goes. Oh, cheers. They have petite ones now. This is just
Oh
12
yeah.
ounces. So
I like the mini Red Bulls, the 8.4 ounce. It's enough caffeine for me. Anything more than that.
are energy drinks turning into phones? Like they're just getting smaller and smaller?
Maybe they are, Ricky.
I don't know. Does yours have
Can you hear me now?
L-carnitine in it? Am I saying that right? Okay.
Not sure.
We're gonna give it a
Tons of
couple more
vitamins and
minutes
minerals.
because again, I at some point we're gonna get this streamlined. But I appreciate everyone being extremely patient on how we're running this, because it's going to be a consistent thing, but we have to build our best practices, as the corporate world would like us to say. All right, so let me get everything situated. Okay. I don't know how Bill O'Reilly would feel about this, but we're doing it live and we're feeling the pains, but we're gonna get through it.
Classic.
Classic.
I'll write it. We'll do it live.
Do it live. All right. I think we're ready to start. And 11. Got it. Cool. All right. Thank you to everyone who's been able to join. I hope others get to join here shortly. But my name is Ricky Lawson, and you are at the Microsoft Copilot Office Hours presented by Ricky, or whatever name we've decided on. So thank you very much for joining today. The goal of this is to provide guidance on Copilot. I am not a software engineer. I don't have an MBA, nothing like that. I am here purely as someone who wants to help others learn a tool because it's going to more than likely be pretty pivotal to pretty much everyone who has a job from home, or maybe they just want to learn more about a tool like this. But it's going to continue to grow, evolve, change, and good for you for jumping in here and trying to learn a little bit more. So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been in tech for, I don't know, 13 years or so, through a number of companies. Like, it's scary how many companies I've actually worked for, but we made it through to the other side. And currently I am I'm a seller at Microsoft, specifically on Copilot. So kind of fits the situation. Now, if you've made it this far, then you probably noticed that someone else is on camera. And I'd love to introduce to the crowd Asher Neerman. Hey, Asher, how's it going?
Hey, Ricky, I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thanks for asking, man. So Asher and I go way back. We met each other, I think, in 2018 in Dallas, when I actually joined the same team that Asher was on at Microsoft. But I'm going to let him jump in and give a little bit of background on his journey and all that good stuff. And then we'll kind of jump into some Copilot things.
Thanks, Ricky. Hey, everyone. Great to be with you all. Yeah, as Ricky said, we spent a number of years together at Microsoft. I have a deep Microsoft background, starting at Microsoft in 2018. Before that, I was in digital marketing, so really love tech and love the development of cloud solutions. And at Microsoft, I spent all 7 years in the partner ecosystem, supporting partner success, sales strategy, campaign management, advanced support, premier support for partners. And then certainly, found myself on the other side of the table in terms of the job search after some changes within the organization. But, AI has always been instrumental in the work that I do. It's been an interesting time to be at Microsoft, to see the evolution of AI and tools like Copilot, certainly in day-to-day work. And so I had a front row seat to that, Ricky and I did. And so it's been an interesting journey, especially as it morphed into a job hunt tool, and how I'm leveraging it for my new role that I have today at a company called Insono, where I'm now the Microsoft Alliances Channel Manager, supporting the Microsoft partnership at Insono. So really glad to be with you. Looking forward to the discussion, sharing more about my experience with Copilot and how I used it both in the job hunt and in my current role today.
Man, we just can't get away from Microsoft, can we? We try, and they pull us back in, right? Actually, I don't try. I wanted to come back, so it's okay. With that said, yes, Asher and I were both part of a change in the organization a few months ago. And as that happened, and we were trying to, find our next role, find out where we wanted to be, I think we both found new ways of using generative AI tools. Could have been Copilot, it could have been ChatGPT, whatever it was. But to me, this was something that kept coming up in interviews, and it actually helped me a lot in prepping for those interviews, of like, how are you using these types of tools? So I'd love to get your perspective, Asher, of like, how were some of the ways you were actually using, generative AI tools, Copilot, whatnot, in this job search that we both were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did have some experience using AI tools before Copilot was around. Having supported the team that I was on from a knowledge perspective, I was playing around with pre-Copilot tools like Q&A Maker, developing certain little chat bots and deploying those in teams. And so I did have some experience in integrating AI and Copilot-esque tools into my work. Certainly, when I was on the job hunt, the use cases of AI certainly expanded. So in my experience, when I was on the hunt, what I would do was I would certainly leverage AI to prep me for all of the types of calls that I was going to have. So before recruiter calls, before interviews, prompting Copilot to synthesize what I needed to know about the company, some of the changes within that company, competitive positioning. And even before that stage, we always talk about your resume and getting past things like the ATS scanners and how much should you be using AI to help you craft your resume. So I guess let me just take a step back and say, I did use some Copilot-esque tools to assist with tightening up my resume and ensuring that I wasn't underselling some of the key accomplishments that I had. I did use other tools outside of Copilot. One was called Teal, and I think it was valuable in having it assess your resume and your accomplishments from a keyword perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, you don't want to morph into a completely different person. And so I would caution you to leverage it to an extent, but always be grounded in the work that you did and your accomplishments, and try not to over architect your resume for that need, and use it more for the research and for the prep work that you have with those recruiters and interviewers.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. I always like the 80-20 rule. Like, no matter how perfect, a output from Copilot is, you want to add at least 20% of your own voice in there. You want to make sure that it reads like you actually wrote it. Take those, what is the double hyphen? I can't even remember what it's called. I know one person on this call is yelling it at me, but
The
like
M dash?
the M dash, yes, the M dash. Thank you.
There we go.
I knew it was coming. So the M dash is the number one way that or if it says like I'm excited to, and then says whatever it's going to do. Don't get rid of those things. Make it human. A lot of the ways that I actually use Copilot is I say, provide this in plain terms. Like, get rid of buzzwords, get rid of super pleasantries. Don't need it. Well, I don't need it because I talk very plainly. So with
Yeah,
that,
yeah, absolutely. I would just add to that
yes,
you don't want AI to write your answers, obviously, but you want
right,
it to help you find the best version of what you want to say about yourself.
right. And so now let's jump into something that everyone here kind of came for, right? Which is an actual use case I'm going to walk you guys through using Copilot. And so what we'll do is I will share my screen and kind of on the let's let's make sure you guys can see that. Okay.
Got it.
So the idea here is you're on the job hunt. You're about to interview for a new role. You've gone through, you've met the recruiter. The recruiter call is usually like pretty easy, right, guys? Like if it's even somewhat of a fit, you usually get through the next round, and then now you're meeting with the team, and you want to be able to present your best foot forward. So Asher came up with a bunch of like good ways of using it, right? Like how to emphasize your resume, making sure that your resume is optimized, however you want to say that to the role, things like that. But another way that you could do that is putting forth some effort of thinking of how, if you were on that team, how you would actually work with that team. And so what I want to show today is the idea of taking a couple bits of information and putting it together to showcase kind of your thoughts of how you could work with them. And for our example, I came up with some synthetic documents. So one thing that Copilot's great at is actually just like creating fake documents. And one of the ways they do that is, hey, will you create me a job description for a customer success manager for the company Contoso Manufacturing? Okay, so gives you about the role, key responsibilities. We've all seen these before, right? And it could be any kind of role. I'm just using customer success manager because those are typically like a role that I would go after. And this is, it's a pretty basic job description, but it gets the job done. Then I asked Copilot to create a synthetic document that overviewed Contoso manufacturing. So we get an overview of it, we get the history. Hey, it's founded in 1998. What is that? Is that the same year as I was in middle school? So we're just going to leave it alone. Products, types of customers, their market position. So just a general basic overview of this company. Now you can go do this for any role that you have. Say you're going for a finance position for a bank. You just go get that job description and you go get the information. You ask Copilot to give you an overview of that company. Boom, you've got it. Now make sure when you do that for the company information that it gives you links to where it's pulling the information so you can make sure that it's like a thorough and it's not hallucinating overview of that company. But if you take both of those and you go to Copilot and ask it something like this, where I say, you are an expert career co-pilot and on-the-job productivity assistant. Woo! Guys, don't worry. I didn't actually write this. I asked Copilot to help me write this prompt. That's weird. Why would you ask Copilot to talk to itself? I don't know, maybe because Copilot knows itself better than anyone else. And so the idea here is I asked Copilot to write a prompt to help me come up with 3 to 5 different prompts that I could use in this role based on the job description and the company information. Essentially, just giving me an idea of like, hey, if I was in this role day to day, what would be some good prompts that I could use? And so I've asked it to create those 3 to 5 highly practical AI prompts. I want a clear prompt title, the text for it, and an explanation. This is great. Gives it constraints. It asks for the job description and the company information, but don't worry, I've already provided that as attachments to this. And so what it did is it goes, oh, hey, yeah, actually, here are 5 practical ways you could do it. So customer health and risk signal analyzer. So you provided some basic information, and then it's going to do some recommendations for you that align to what that customer might need to make sure that they're happy and continue to buy and stay working with you. So there can be another way of doing this, like an onboarding plan generator. So we've got business QBR builder, expansion for opportunities. So there's a number of different ones that you can come up with. And the idea here is that as you're working through with that interview, you kind of talk about these different things, these different kind of topics, depending on what the role is in the company. And at the end, you let them know like, hey, did some of the things that I discussed about like opportunity identifiers, is that something you would actually use? If so, I actually asked Copilot to create these prompts. I'm curious if these would be interesting for you, and then maybe send them their way. Now, is this going to be like 100% hit rate? Absolutely not. But here's what it shows me. What it shows to me is that you put in more effort than maybe someone else. And then you also did something a little bit unique to what others might be doing, right? Others might be thinking, I just want to, I want to praise myself. I want to make myself look good, which you always want to do in an interview. But what is the next level of that is saying, hey, I want to help your team. Now, you want to position this carefully, right? You don't want to sound like I know what I'm doing, but I hope that these could help you. I don't know if they can, but this is some of the things that I was able to come up with. Hey, if you've been doing the job hunt for 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, whatever it might be, and you want to try something different, I think this might be a great way of showcasing not only are you thinking about the position and how you would attack it in like the first 30, 60, 90 days, but also how you would be able to help others in that role. So, okay, we can stop
Ricky,
showing this.
yeah, I think
Yes, go
that's
ahead.
uh, thank you for sharing that. I think it's fantastic, and as it aligns to my experience, it's interesting that the cover letter was the mechanism in the past. It still is a mechanism today to show how you would on day one, address the needs of the role and what you would bring to the table. Uh, I started with some cover letters when I was in my early days of the job hunt. I quickly moved away from the cover letter. I found that it didn't change my response rate. So if you're on the fence about whether you're going to be crafting cover letters or not, I would try to lean you towards don't spend the time on that. Spend time on something like what you were saying, developing a 30, 60, 90-day plan, sharing that proactively either within the interview or following an interview. And then, of course, the best case scenario is that it does help you get the job. You're then able to morph that to retrain that prompt based on your hands-on work after the first few weeks and redevelop and re-architect that 30, 60, 90-day plan after you have a little bit more inside information about what you actually will be doing in the role. So I think that that's great advice and something that I'm actually doing today in terms of leveraging my initial 30, 60, 90-day plan and how it's going to be evolved for my my next 80 or so days in the role.
Love it, dude. That's great. And like, that's the thing is that you want to continue to try and do things a little different. Another example that I don't have pulled up, and I'm not going to show it through Copilot, but a couple years ago, I interviewed for a role where you were going to have to do like, uh, a pretend sales call. Okay. And you were going to have to position the role itself was some tech company that was selling like different ways you could push text messages. Okay. And they sent me this PowerPoint and they said, hey, it's going to be me, who was like the director of customer success and a VP of sales. Both of them were going to join the call and they were going to ask me questions as I presented the information. So I went to Copilot and I put in the PowerPoint presentation. Then I told Copilot, hey, I'm going to have to present this to the VP of customer success and the VP of sales. And I want to see what a 20-minute dialogue could potentially look like of a back and forth of a customer call. And it gave me this script of like all the things that could potentially be gotchas and other questions that might come up, topics that I should be introducing. And, I didn't use it word for word, but I did use it as a way to prepare for that presentation. And then when I got on the presentation, about 10 minutes in, that VP of sales kind of said, hey, well, I got to stop for a second. Ricky, how are you? How do you kind of know what questions are coming up?
Hmm.
And I literally told them the story and they stopped what we were doing and I showed them how I did it through Copilot and they were like, wow, that's pretty cool. Now I didn't get the job, which is some BS. And actually it worked out okay. But I thought like, man, there's such a moment where I learned the gravity and what Copilot, what any generative AI tool can do. It can make an interview literally stop in the middle and someone say, how'd you do that? It's like they're treating it like it's a magic trick, but it's not. It is just, how do you know how to use this? And are you using it practically and in a way
Mhm.
to make you successful? Now, there are way other applications today to use this, but for the job interview, these are some of the ways that you could absolutely use this to separate yourself from others as you're going through this. And I know, Asher, you had an example where you went to like the next level when you did an interview with a company a couple months ago, where you kind of left Copilot and those things, and you went and you started looking at potentially like apps and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, a number of months ago, I applied for a role at GitHub, obviously owned by Microsoft, and you know what in prepping for those interviews, I realized that I needed to understand GitHub better, and I needed to play around with app development. And so I downloaded VS Code. I used Copilot and Claude without a computer science degree to develop a couple of applications. And these were more like games and small code resources. And what I found was that even with a game like Hangman or Country Capitals, that I was developing this alongside with my kids, having them follow along. The light bulbs go off in terms of, well, if I can build an app this easy that's just a game like Hangman, um, it's limitless in terms of what your potential is given the tools that you have. And so it's certainly important to not just prep for the interview in the ways that we've talked about, but embedding yourself into that company's use of AI and making sure that you're up to date with, what their customers are using it for, and you could speak the language directly to them with that hands-on experience. And so certainly the barrier to building isn't technical skill anymore, it's willingness to start.
Yeah, I've experienced this with Claude Code. I started using that, bought like the $20 membership for the simple reason that there is like it's a very regional game. It's called 88, and it's like, I don't know if it's a global. I don't think it's a global phenomenon because it doesn't exist in the Apple App Store, but it's a domino game. Okay. And I tried to build it in Claude Code, and I've done some refinement, and it is so much better than I thought it was going to be, yet still awful. So it's got a ways to go. But it is incredible that just me typing has allowed it to build something that is functional, that people, it kind of reminds me of when I was in college in a rock band, band. So people, I
Was
would
this
pass out
was
our
this
demo
Guitar Hero?
CDs.
Was this
No,
Guitar Hero?
I was a bassist.
Okay.
Don't worry. It wasn't like glam rock. I didn't have like foundation on or anything like that. But we kind of fit the early 2000s sound. Anyways, when I would give people our demo CD, the first response would be almost always would be like, "Wow, that's better than I thought it was going to be." Which is such a backhanded comment, but I will take it. And that's how I felt when I gave my first Claude application to someone. And they're like, wow, it's not great at scoring and the dominoes are everywhere, but man, this actually works a lot better than I was expecting. So, whether you're making like college rock band music that 10 people go to, or you're hosting a webinar where 10 people come, either way, there's signs of success. And, it's great to see that this ability of like just being able to type things out and having something be produced is absolutely wild. And it's available to all of us at our fingertips.
Yeah, I would just piggyback on that to say, you know, once you've had a few interviews and you have an idea of what the pain points are of the company, of the team, of your manager, how you're going to make their life easier, imagine just doing a few prompts, building an application that explains how you're going to solve some of these problems instead of just creating a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Maybe there's a small little application that you could spin up that describes this or illustrates the ways that you're going to address these problems. Even something extra like that could certainly help you stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, I look at it like one of the things I really don't hear being said about Copilot is that it really is like an ideation station. That is my coin term, because yes, it helps with workflows. Yes, it helps summarize things. But the thing I use Copilot for the absolute most is coming up with ideas and building off thoughts that I can then formulate into, you know, documents or recordings or programs, whatever it might be. but it is a great sounding board. And for things like what you're talking about, it is so good at like, oh hey, I'm about to take on this new role. Here's what the role is going to be. What are some of the things that I should be thinking about? Boom, it pops up 10 things. Maybe one of them you haven't even thought of. You focus on that, boom, now you're going to the next thing, right? So it is such a good way to have that sounding board, because I don't know about you, Asher, but whenever I'm starting to think about something and I don't have someone to bounce that off of, I kind of
Mhm.
lose momentum. I lose that steam that I'm hoping for. So, having that ability to bounce things off of, having that ability to really like dive deep into stuff, is one of the best things for me when I use Copilot. Okay, so in that way, I want to quickly show off another thing that you can use for Copilot, which is Researcher Agent. So, Researcher Agent, and we're going to pull this back up. Let me clear this out. So, we are going to go back here. So, now I'm showing off my demo environment within Microsoft. So, there's a lot of stuff here that you might not necessarily have access to if you're using like the consumer version or even the business version. But one of the things that the enterprise version allows you to have access to are these first party agents that Microsoft has. Now, if we click over here, you can see agents, and then I can see all the agents that I have access to. And then you are able to see others that are built by Microsoft. And then there's even some other ones that are like third party, right? Now, these agents for Excel and PowerPoint and Word, they're great. We're not going to showcase those necessarily. I actually have a video for Excel if you want to check that out. But today I want to focus on Researcher. And Researcher is a absolutely wonderful tool if you need to learn a ton about something. Now, it has some initial prompts here, essential initial prompts that you can absolutely leverage. And these are great. You just click on them and then throw in whatever information you want. But for today's purposes, I actually used this market analysis. Now, whenever you do this, it spits out the prompt and then you put whatever company you want to put in here. Now, what happens is researcher will look at your initial prompt, and 99 out of 100 times it is actually going to ask you additional questions for context, just to make sure that it's getting everything that you're looking for, right? And you can also go over here and use sources. If you want it to just be internal resources within your work environment, you can get rid of the web. So it's no longer web grounded. And then you can come over here and you can say like, oh, I want you to use my meetings, emails, chats, all this stuff, right? Now, for these purposes, I'm not actually going to run Researcher. And why am I not going to run it? Because it usually takes anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to output. And it's because it does a number of actions within Copilot to make sure it's getting all the information that's relative to you. So I actually ran this yesterday, and I'll show you what that looks like if this will allow me. Now, the question that I actually asked Copilot, or the researcher agent yesterday, was I want a comprehensive market share analysis for Microsoft Copilot using work and web sources. So it says, got it. Just to make sure I understand. And then again, it asks those questions. Are you interested in Copilot's market share over all the different offerings, or just one particular piece? And do you want comparisons for the competitors? Are you looking for global market share? So some really good questions, and then actually gives you an idea of like what your report link should be. I can't remember what I chose there, but I actually answered all the questions, and then researcher did its thing. And here's all the things it did. Yikes. Can you imagine trying to do all these different pieces when you were putting together some kind of document to showcase to your manager, to leadership, to your coworker, to a customer. It's a lot, right? I'm not going to make everyone get motion sickness here, but the idea is Copilot did an unbelievable amount of work to spit out this great report. It gives you an executive summary, talks about the market share and the adoption, kind of the competitor landscape. It gives you links to where it's pulling this information from. So in case you want to adjust it, and then it gives you visuals. So 70% of Fortune 500 companies are using Copilot. Hey, that's great. Adoption, speed, fast. I would be interested to know where they pulled that from. So, anyways, there's a bunch of great stuff here, right? Like this is so well put together. The format's great, a bunch of different topics. You can pick and choose things from this. And the only reason I want to go to the bottom is that I want to show off this one thing. You can actually click this, it will convert it into Word, and then now you have it as a living document that you can either mess with or you can do all kinds of different stuff. And so you get this entire experience from a simple prompt. Now, here's the thing is that who's actually going to read this? I'm not sure. I'm going to read it because it matters to me, but it's all about like pulling this information, getting the depth of knowledge that you want, and then being able to leverage it how you want. Perhaps this is a way that you could build out something for a customer who wants to learn more about their competitors, specifically with AI. Let researcher do its thing and send it to the customer and see what they think. I would probably make it 1 to 5 pages because if you're sending a 10-page document, nobody's got time for that. But a couple different ways that you can use this in your work day to day. Say, for instance, you wanted researcher to compile all the different ways that you interact with your customers through email and Teams, and then create like a best practice document to share with people that are being onboarded onto your team. Researcher can do that, and it can provide probably a pretty good version that you would just need to clean up a little bit. So with that, Asher, have you used the researcher agent before? If not, no worries. But I just wanted to kind of get your idea of what you think about leveraging something like this and how you would use it.
No, that's awesome. I have not used the researcher Copilot feature, but certainly I did use AI and Copilot in a very similar way. And I would say this was in my transitional period from I got the offer at the new role. I now need to get up to speed. Having asked my hiring manager what are a few topics that would be good for me to review coming into this role. One specific one was to understand better frontier firm and what that means. And from a Microsoft perspective, a frontier firm is an organization that is human-led, but AI operated. So it's essentially about incorporating AI in all facets of the business and ensuring customers are mindful of the different ways that AI can be embedded in the different parts of the business. And that single topic that my hiring manager wanted me to know coming in, I was able to use Copilot and Claude to organize a list of videos, of documents, of blogs about frontier firms. And it helped me find the work trend index that was posted. That's a 50-page document with a case study of sorts. And I watched keynote videos from Microsoft leadership at different conferences to understand it as well. And so I certainly see the value in leveraging this both in the role, but certainly as it pertains to getting up to speed in a role or prepping yourself for any type of new role.
That's great, man. And yeah, Frontier Firm, it's a big initiative that's happening today. And in fact, you hear um, you actually hear this come up a ton right now. Now, yeah, it's kind of like a buzzword that Microsoft is pushing, but other companies are saying frontier firms, things like that. And yes, the overall idea there is just lean into AI and be thinking when you're creating a workflow, when you're creating a business process, when you're creating any corporate jargon, use or use AI tools to help automate or build off that idea or provide it as a way for others to enrich and learn about whatever that might be. And so it is going to be a foundational um, kind of thought process for companies moving forward.
Yeah, and I would just say lastly that the model of being a frontier firm has different stages, and I don't think that they are exclusively for businesses to incorporate. The three phases of a frontier firm are AI as an assistant, that's phase one. Phase two is AI agents as digital colleagues. And then phase three is AI operated human-led organization. And so even with your own work and your own initiatives, how are you going to move from AI as an assistant to the other two phases as having an agent as a colleague, a digital colleague, and having the AI be operated by you holistically and autonomously. So you should also be a frontier individual as well.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about having an AI coworker. They're going to do way better than me. I already know it. But it is an idea that having something that is constantly working aside, side by side with you is something both scary because quite honestly, we're not sure how it's all going to shake out, but it's exciting at the same time because it's going to, what these tools do are typically the work that is a little less creative, a little bit more mundane, and it opens you up to allow you to do more of the work that should be exciting to you, but it just depends on what you're doing today.
Absolutely. Everyone needs a good wingman. Microsoft says Copilot. Wingman, be Maverick, don't be Goose.
Yeah, hard rip, Goose. Okay. Um, I think we might have run through all the topics. I know that we have an hour. Just want to double check. Um, but I think I covered everything that I wanted to and that you wanted to. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, normally these things are 60 minutes. We made it 40. So sorry, Asher. I'm just not I feel like we're not having as much fun as I did last time by myself.
I'm having a blast. So
No, I'm joking, dude. Like this has been a great conversation. And actually there's a ton of good information here about what so many people are just kind of struggling with today, which is finding that new role, finding that new job.
sure.
And we both have recently been through it. And through that process, we were able to leverage these tools to make sure that, we were able to land these next positions. And so, that's the thing that I wanted to get out of this conversation today. And I think we were able to do that.
Absolutely. In closing, I would also remind everyone that AI is not the end all be all. A lot of what helped me get the role that I have was good old fashioned human connections, networking, and reaching out to uh, different colleagues, former colleagues, partners, recruiters that I had never met. And so certainly AI is a tool in the toolbox, but you certainly need that human connection and that networking component with actual people to also assist you with that hunting opportunity and your situation. So don't forget about that.
Yeah, great final words because that's absolutely right. Like AI can only get you so far. It can help you separate yourself in certain situations, but that human connection, it's hard to beat.
Sure.
And just, being nice, that goes a long way. And also having a network, go to those, you go to the happy hours, go to the networking events, meet people, be excited about what they're doing, even if you might not be totally excited. Who knows?
Hmm.
It could be exciting later, you know. But
Absolutely.
all I'm saying is leverage as many things as you can, and
Sure.
you're going to be just fine. But if you want to learn a little bit more about AI, continue to come to these sessions, all 1,000 of you, and I appreciate it. Thank you for joining today's session of Microsoft Copilot Office Hours presented by Ricky with special guest Asher Neerman. Thank you, Asher, for coming today. Thank you for everyone for joining today. That will do it. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Ricky. Thanks, everyone.